Commander Elias Ward moved through the quiet corridors of the massive Zyran flagship, his boots tapping softly against the smooth metal floor. The entire ship felt like a giant that had taken its last breath. Lights flickered overhead, alarms echoed far in the distance, and thin trails of smoke drifted through the air like fading ghosts. Even though the ship was falling apart, Ward stayed calm. He had come too far to turn back, and the mission was far too important to abandon. Somewhere inside this collapsing warship was the one person everyone believed was impossible to reach, the alien queen of the Zyran Dominion, Seralith. Ward had never seen a Zyran up close before. Most humans hadn't. The Zyran Dominion was one of the most powerful empires in known space. Their ships were advanced, their warriors feared, and their leaders almost mythical. Yet right now, their flagship was under attack. Not by humans, but by ruthless cosmic raiders who targeted anything valuable. And nothing in the galaxy was more valuable than the Zyran Queen herself. Ward didn't come for glory. He didn't come for money, advantage, politics, or strategy. He came because the emergency signal he intercepted had carried something unexpected: fear, not the fear of a race that ruled entire sectors. It was the personal fear of one individual trapped and helpless. He didn't recognize her voice at first, but the distress tone was unmistakably real. Someone was calling for help. So he answered. As he advanced, the sounds of distant blaster fire grew louder, mixed with the sharp metallic groans of the dying ship. Ward checked his tracker again. According to the data, the Queen's life signature came from deep inside the royal chamber. He moved faster. He passed fallen Zyran guards along the way. Their armor was cracked, their weapons scattered. Ward knelt beside one for a moment, checking if the guard was breathing. The alien was unconscious but alive. Ward made sure his airway was clear before moving on. Saving lives mattered, any life, no matter the species. The corridor ahead opened into a grand hall. The architecture was something Ward had never seen before. Tall pillars carved with glowing symbols rose toward a ceiling that shimmered like a night sky filled with floating lights. The Zyran were known for their beauty and mystery, and even in its damaged state, their ship was a masterpiece. He didn't get long to admire it. Voices echoed from the next chamber, harsh and confident. Not Zyran. Raiders. Ward edged toward the doorway and peeked inside. The room beyond was large, round, and filled with flowing curtains of shimmering energy that formed an elegant throne-like structure near the center. And standing beside that throne, her back pressed against a pillar, was Queen Seralith. Ward had heard rumors of her appearance: tall, graceful, with luminous eyes and skin that almost shimmered like silver marble. The rumors had not exaggerated. She stood with unbroken posture despite the fear in her eyes, her long crown-like tendrils shifting as she watched the raiders approach. Her guards lay unconscious or stunned around the room. 3 raiders moved toward her. They didn't speak her language, but their intentions were obvious. They wanted the reward her capture would bring. Their leader stepped forward, raising his weapon. Ward didn't wait. He moved into the room quickly but silently, using the broken structures as cover. He didn't fire immediately. Instead, he observed their positions, their blind spots, their armor gaps. Ward was a soldier trained not just to fight, but to outthink. When the leader lifted his weapon higher, preparing to strike, Ward acted. He threw a small flash device into the center of the room. The burst of light stunned the raiders for a moment, just enough time. He darted forward, striking the first raider with a quick shove that knocked the weapon from his hands. The second raider swung toward him, but Ward ducked behind a fallen pillar and disabled him with a precise move that sent the alien stumbling away. The third raider tried to attack the Queen while Ward was occupied, but Ward anticipated the move. He reached the raider in time and pushed him off balance, making the alien drop his weapon. The raiders were aggressive but sloppy. Ward used their mistakes instead of relying on brute strength. Within moments, the raiders were fleeing toward the exit, shouting curses in their language. Silence returned to the chamber, broken only by the faint, pulsing hum of the ship's unstable reactor. Ward exhaled slowly and turned toward the Queen. For a moment, she did not move. She simply stared at him, her bright cyan eyes wide with shock. Zyran royalty rarely expressed surprise, but this time, she could not hide it. She had expected one of her people to rescue her, or, more realistically, no one at all. Instead, a human, one of the species her council dismissed as inexperienced and reckless, had walked into the heart of her flagship and saved her life. Ward approached cautiously, not wanting to startle her. "Your Majesty," he said gently, "we need to leave. The ship won't hold for much longer." Seralith blinked slowly, as though trying to confirm he was real. Her voice was soft but strong. "You are human?" "Yes. You came for me?" Her tone held disbelief, curiosity, and something else he couldn't identify. "I heard your distress call," he replied. "I help anyone who asks for help. Doesn't matter who they are." Her eyes widened again. The idea seemed completely foreign to her. The ship shuddered, a deep tremor rolling through the floor. Ward offered his hand. "We have minutes, maybe less. Can you walk?" She hesitated, not because she was injured, but because she had never before taken the hand of a human. But she accepted, placing her cool, elegant fingers in his. Her grip was strong, regal. Ward gently helped her down from the damaged throne platform. As they hurried through the corridor, Seralith glanced at him repeatedly, as though trying to understand something far beyond simple rescue. "Why did you risk your life?" she asked. "I am not of your kind. My people and yours do not share peace." Ward looked ahead, scanning for dangers. "I don't need peace to do what's right." Her gaze lingered on him longer this time. To her, the concept felt almost illogical. Zyran culture valued strength, dominance, strategy. Helping strangers for no gain was seen as naive, almost foolish. Yet this human acted as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. The ship trembled again, more violently. Lights burst above them, showering sparks. Seralith stumbled, and Ward caught her without hesitation. "Stay close," he said. She nodded, her expression thoughtful. As they moved deeper through the damaged corridors, Seralith noticed something else. Ward did not push her ahead like a shield, nor did he lag behind expecting her to protect him. He stayed beside her, guiding her but treating her as an equal. No fear, no awe, no calculation, just steady resolve. After a long stretch of damaged hallways, Ward reached the emergency pod bay. Only one pod remained functional, its door half open and flickering with warning lights. "We get inside, launch, and hope the autopilot still works," he said. Seralith stepped into the pod first, examining the controls. "Your rescue method is reckless." Ward smiled faintly. "It usually works." She turned back to him, her expression softening in a way he did not expect. "Human," she said quietly. "You do not even know me. Yet you chose to save me." "That's enough," he replied simply. The ship groaned loudly, metal twisting under pressure. Seralith flinched slightly as the walls around them vibrated. Ward stepped inside the pod and sealed the door. The small cabin filled with blue light as the system powered up. The ship's alarms wailed, signaling an imminent core breach. Seralith looked at him again, her voice barely above a whisper. You're the one who saved me." Ward met her eyes. "I did what anyone should." "Not anyone," she replied. "Not in this galaxy." The pod ejected just as the flagship's reactor finally went critical. Through the small viewport, they saw the massive vessel erupt in a bright wave of light, dissolving into glowing fragments. The shockwave shook the pod, but the stabilizers held. For several long moments, the two sat in silence, the soft hum of the escape pod surrounding them. Seralith studied Ward quietly, her earlier astonishment giving way to something deeper, respect mixed with curiosity, and perhaps the faint beginning of trust. Ward simply leaned back, catching his breath after the intense escape. He had no idea that saving this one alien queen would change not just his life, but the fate of two entire civilizations. And Seralith, watching the human beside her, began to realize something she never expected. Humanity, a species her council dismissed as ordinary, held a strength she had never seen before, a strength not of power or technology, but of heart. And in that moment, while drifting through the silent void inside a small escape pod, she understood one thing with absolute clarity. The galaxy would never be the same again. The escape pod drifted through the silent darkness of space, its engines humming softly as it followed its pre-programmed route. Queen Seralith sat quietly on one side, her posture still regal even in the cramped interior. Commander Elias Ward sat across from her, adjusting the navigation panel manually to make sure the pod avoided debris from the destroyed flagship. The quiet between them was strange. Not uncomfortable, but filled with thoughts neither of them knew how to express yet. Seralith watched the human soldier closely. She had spent her entire life hearing about humans, how they were brave but reckless, emotional but unpredictable. But nothing she had heard matched the person sitting only a few feet away. Elias Ward was calm, deliberate, and strangely patient. He had a focused mind, but nothing about him felt cold. For a long time, she simply studied him, trying to understand why someone like him would risk everything for someone like her. Ward finally noticed her stare and looked up. "Something wrong?" "No," she replied slowly. "I am only thinking." "About what?" "You helped me when you had no reason to," she said softly. "I am trying to understand why." Ward leaned back in his seat. "I told you before. I help people who need help. Doesn't matter who they are, but that is not normal," she insisted. "In this galaxy, no one acts without expecting something in return." Ward gave a small shrug. "Maybe that's the problem with the galaxy." Her eyes narrowed slightly in confusion. Humans were unusual beings, but Ward was something else entirely. A soldier who saved an enemy queen because it was the right thing to do. No Zyran commander would ever make such a choice. Before she could ask more, the pod's engine sputtered. Ward leaned forward immediately. "We're entering the gravity field of the moon," he explained. "Hold on." The pod dipped, shook, then stabilized before descending toward a gray, rocky surface below. The atmosphere was thin but breathable enough for short periods. The device on the control panel blinked red for a moment before turning yellow. "We have a problem?" Seralith asked. "Not yet," Ward replied, though his tone grew more serious. "The pod took some damage during the ship explosion. It can land, but it won't take off again." Seralith understood the implication instantly. "We are trapped here." "Temporarily," he corrected. "As long as we can reach a signal point, we can call for help." She nodded, trusting his plan. After all, he had already saved her life once. The pod touched down with a rough bounce. Dust rose around them as the cabin settled and the engines powered down. Ward pushed open the hatch and climbed out first, scanning the rocky terrain. The moon was barren but not lifeless. Strange crystals sparkled beneath a thin layer of dust, and distant rock formations curved upward like the ribs of a giant creature. Seralith stepped out next, moving gracefully despite the unfamiliar ground. Her silver-tinted skin reflected the faint light from the nearby star system. Ward looked around cautiously. "We need shelter," he said. "And a way to send a signal." "Where?" she asked. He pointed toward a line of dark rocks in the distance. "There. The terrain dips, which means there might be caves." Seralith followed beside him as they walked. For the first time in her life, she walked alongside a human, not as a ruler or an enemy, but as someone depending on him. The thought unsettled her, yet also awakened a strange warmth inside her chest. Ward moved with steady confidence, checking their surroundings every few minutes. Seralith noticed something else. He always walked slightly between her and any open space, as if shielding her without making it obvious. "You are protecting me," she said. Ward glanced at her. "You're still a target. Raiders might be tracking your life signature. You do not have to put yourself in danger again." "I know," he said simply, "but I will." She looked away for a moment, unsure how to respond. No one had ever spoken to her with such calm certainty, without bowing or fearing her authority. After nearly an hour of walking, they found a shallow cave. It was cool inside, lit by the tiny crystals growing from the walls. Ward checked the entrance carefully before allowing Sarilith inside. "This will work for now," he said. "We can rest and plan." Sarilith sat on a flat stone near the wall. Ward placed a few emergency supplies from the pod on the ground between them rations. A portable light. A small scanner. "You have done this before," she said softly. "What?" "Rescuing strangers. Surviving alone on strange worlds. Making plans quickly." Ward chuckled faintly. "Something like that. You do not speak much about yourself. Most soldiers don't." She tilted her head in curiosity. "Why?" "Because talking too much gets people hurt," he answered. "Better to stay focused." Sarilith considered this. "On my world, leaders speak often. They command with words." Ward met her gaze. "On mine, we lead with actions first. Words come later." For a moment, they held each other's eyes. Something silent passed between them, mutual understanding, maybe even respect, but the quiet did not last. The scanner on the floor beeped suddenly. Ward picked it up, checking the display. His expression hardened. "What is it?" Sarilith asked. "We're not alone," he replied. A ship entered the moon's orbit. Not Zyron. Sarilith felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. "Raiders? Looks like a small group. Probably tracking your escape pod." She stood immediately. "Then we must move." "Not yet," he said, raising a hand. "We need a plan. Running blindly could get us killed." "Then what do you suggest?" she demanded. Ward stepped toward the cave entrance, watching the sky through the crack of light. "They'll land soon. We need to stay hidden until we know how many there are." She watched him, noticing how still he stood, like a soldier listening to the heartbeat of the world around him. There was something comforting in his confidence. Minutes later, the distant rumble of engines echoed through the thin atmosphere. A small raider ship descended onto the moon's surface, landing near the wreckage of the escape pod. Sarilith moved quietly beside Ward. "They will track us here." "They will." "Not right away," he said. "The terrain is too uneven. Their scanners won't pick up our life signs unless they come closer." "One." He turned to her. "We need to prepare." "Prepare for what?" she asked. "For surviving this." Sarilith watched as he adjusted a few devices, setting small sensor nodes near the cave entrance to alert them of movement. She felt a strange mix of admiration and concern. Admiration for his skill. Concern for the danger he continued facing because of her. "You could leave," she said suddenly. "They do not want you. Only me." Ward stopped what he was doing and looked at her directly. "I'm not leaving. You do not understand. If they capture me, they will reward you for handing me over." "I don't want a reward. I am not your ally," she insisted. "My people have opposed yours for years. Why protect me?" Ward stepped closer, his voice steady. "Because you're a person who needed help. That's enough. I'm not giving you to anyone." Sarilith's breath caught for a moment, not out of fear but something far more unusual to her. She had seen loyalty, but never this kind. Loyalty without duty. Protection without command. Compassion without expectation. The raider voices grew louder outside. A group spread out near the pod, searching the area. Ward motioned for her to stay low. She obeyed without hesitation. After several tense minutes, the sensor node blinked. Someone was approaching the cave. Ward whispered, "Stay behind me." Sarilith nodded. For the first time, she felt fear not of the raiders, but of losing the human who had risked everything for her. Footsteps grew closer. A shadow appeared at the cave mouth. Ward remained still, muscles ready, eyes sharp. The raider stepped inside just enough to scan the area. Ward waited for the exact right moment, then quietly threw a small device that emitted a loud distraction burst. The raider stumbled back in confusion, thinking the noise came from outside the cave. He ran off to investigate, unaware of how close he had been. Ward let out a slow breath. "We can't stay long," he said. "They're checking every direction." Sarilith moved closer. "Then we move together." Ward nodded. "We'll head toward higher ground." If we reach the signal ridge, we can send a distress beacon. She stood straighter, determination filling her eyes. Then let us go. I trust your judgment. Ward paused, surprised by her words. But he didn't question them. They slipped out of the cave and moved through the moonlit landscape, staying in the shadows of the rocky terrain. The raiders searched behind them, unaware that their targets were already far ahead. As they climbed toward the ridge, Serelith glanced at Ward again. She felt the strange warmth return to her chest. In a galaxy ruled by power, fear, and selfishness, one human's kindness was beginning to shake everything she believed. And for the first time, she wondered if humanity held a strength far greater than she ever imagined. Ward and Serelith moved carefully across the moon's uneven surface, climbing toward the ridge where a signal beacon might still exist. The ground was rough beneath their boots, and thin streams of dust rose with each step. The low gravity made their movements lighter, but it also made every small slip more dangerous. The raiders were still searching behind them, and the slightest noise could draw attention. Ward kept scanning the terrain, his eyes sharp and focused. Every few minutes, he checked a small handheld tracker, making sure they stayed ahead of the raider search pattern. Serelith stayed close beside him, her long steps quiet, her gaze constantly moving between the rocks, the sky, and Ward himself. She had never depended on anyone before. As queen, she had been protected by guards and armored ships, not by strangers with no reason to care about her fate. But now, walking behind Ward as he led the way, she found herself trusting him with her life, more than she had trusted many of her own warriors. Ward finally stopped near a cluster of tall stone formations. "We'll rest here for a moment," he said quietly. Serelith nodded. Her body was strong, but the stress of the escape, the tension of being hunted, and the unfamiliar environment all weighed heavily on her. She sat on a flat stone, while Ward knelt at the edge of the rocks, watching the horizon. After a few silent minutes, she spoke. "You know they will not stop searching." "I know," he said without looking back. "And you know they want me, not you." "Still doesn't change anything." She tilted her head, studying him carefully. "Most warriors I know fight for survival, for power, for orders. But you fight because you choose to." Ward smiled faintly. "Something like that. You risk your life again and again," she continued. "You save someone you barely know. You stand in front of danger without hesitation. Why?" Ward finally met her eyes. "Because someone has to." The simplicity of the answer made Serelith's chest tighten. In her world, everything was complex: politics, strategy, alliances. But this human acted with simple courage, the kind that did not need explanations. Ward looked at the scanner again. "They're spreading out more. We should keep moving." Serelith stood and followed him as they moved deeper between the tall stone pillars. Shadows stretched long across the ground, shifting with every step. The silence of the moon made every sound, every rock falling, every breath seem louder. They traveled for another hour before Ward raised his hand, signaling her to stop. "What is it?" she whispered. Ward knelt beside a small ridge and pointed at the dust. "Footprints, fresh." Serelith leaned closer. "Raiders?" "No. Too large," Ward said. "Could be a moon creature, or a mercenary using heavy gear." Her eyes narrowed. "Is it heading the same direction we are going?" "Looks like it," Ward said. "Which means the ridge might already be watched." Serelith felt a wave of frustration but kept her voice calm. "Then what do we do?" "Adapt," Ward said. "We go around." They changed direction, staying low as they moved behind a long stretch of jagged rocks. The landscape grew sharper, and the air colder. Serelith wrapped her arms around herself as the icy wind brushed against her skin. Ward noticed and reached into his pack. "Here, thermal wrap." She accepted it, surprised. "You give me your only one?" "You need it more," he said simply. Serelith looked at him for a long moment. "Humans. You care in ways that make no sense." Ward laughed softly. "We hear that a lot." Before she could reply, the tracker beeped sharply. Ward looked down, and his expression changed instantly. "They're close," he said. "Too close." "How many?" she asked. "At least 5, Ward replied. Coming from the east. Sarilith looked around for cover, but the terrain had opened up. They were in a wide stretch with only low rocks, not enough to hide behind. "We must run," she said. Ward shook his head. "Running in open ground makes us easy targets." "Then what is your plan?" she asked urgently. Ward scanned the area quickly, then pointed to a narrow drop in the terrain. "There. A small ravine. If we reach it before they crest the hill, they won't see us." Sarilith nodded, and they both moved fast, their steps swift but silent. The ground tilted downward, and they slid the last few meters into the ravine. It was narrow, the walls rising high enough to hide them from sight. Ward pressed his back against the rock wall and pulled Sarilith close beside him. Their shoulders touched, and she could feel the warmth of his body even through the cold air. Voices echoed above them. "They were here. Find them before the boss gets mad. Check the ridge." Sarilith held her breath. Ward stayed completely still, one hand gently but firmly resting near her arm as if ready to pull her further into cover if needed. After a few tense minutes, the raiders moved away, their footsteps growing faint. Ward waited a few moments more before finally relaxing. "Okay, coast is clear." Sarilith exhaled slowly. "That was close." "Too close," Ward agreed. "We need to reach that signal point fast." They continued moving through the ravine until it opened into a wide valley. In the distance, a faint metallic structure rose, a relay tower. Old, but still standing. "There," Ward said. "That's our way out." Sarilith's eyes lit with relief. "Can it send a message?" "If the power core still works, yes." They approached cautiously. The tower was ancient, half buried in the dust, its panels dented and dark. Ward climbed the small ladder and opened a rusty control panel. Sparks flickered weakly inside. "Can you fix it?" Sarilith asked. "I can try," he said, "but it'll take time." Sarilith stood guard while he worked. Her eyes scanned the horizon, watching for raiders, scanning the skies for any hint of incoming danger. After several minutes, Ward muttered, "Come on. Work." Just once, a faint blue light blinked. Sarilith stepped closer. "Is it working?" Ward grinned. "It's alive enough. I can send a signal, then send it." Ward typed quickly on the faded panel, connecting the distress message to the nearest communication satellite. Sarilith watched in silence, feeling the first spark of hope since the flagship had been destroyed. But just as the signal began transmitting, a sharp sound cut through the air. A weapon charging. Ward's head snapped up. "Down!" He pulled Sarilith behind him as a shot blasted into the tower, sending sparks raining down. Ward hit the ground, pulling her with him behind a fallen metal beam. A group of raiders appeared over the ridge, weapons raised. "Found them!" one shouted. Sarilith's heart pounded. Ward quickly checked his weapon down to a few charges. "We can't fight them long," he whispered. "But we cannot run," she replied. Ward nodded. "Then we hold until someone sees the signal." The raiders moved closer, firing shots that hit the rocks around them. Sarilith crouched low beside Ward, her eyes filled with fear. Not fear for herself, but fear for him. Ward leaned out and fired a precise shot, hitting one raider's weapon and knocking it aside. Another shot from the raiders forced him back behind cover. "We can't keep this up," Ward said between breaths. Sarilith suddenly reached for something near the tower. A loose power cable crackled with energy. "Ward," she said, "can this overload?" He looked at the cable, then at her. "If it does, it'll create a light burst. Might blind them long enough to escape. Then do it." Ward grabbed the cable and pulled it free. The tower flickered wildly, lights flashing rapidly. "Cover your eyes," he warned. A second later, a huge flash of white light burst from the tower. The raiders cried out, stumbling back in confusion. Unable to see, Ward took Sarilith's hand. "Go! Now!" They ran, climbing up the side of the ravine, dust flying beneath their boots. The raiders behind them shouted angrily, firing blindly, hitting nothing. At the top of the ridge, Ward finally stopped, breathing hard. Sarilith stood beside him, her chest rising and falling with exhaustion. "Did the signal send?" she asked. Ward smiled, tired but hopeful. "It sent enough." Sarilith's shoulders relaxed. "Then help is coming." "Yeah," Ward said softly. "Now we just have to stay alive until it gets here." Sarilith looked at the human who had saved her life twice now. Dust covered his face. His uniform was torn, and he was exhausted, but his eyes still held the same steady courage as before. "You protect me without hesitation," she whispered. "And now, you risk your life again." Ward shrugged lightly. "I told you, I'm not leaving you." Sarilith felt something warm rise in her chest, a feeling she had never known before. Not admiration, not gratitude, something deeper. In a galaxy filled with danger and betrayal, one human stood beside her with a loyalty she had never imagined. And as they stood on that ridge, watching the horizon for their rescuers, Sarilith realized something she never expected. She would protect him too, no matter the cost. Ward and Sarilith remained on the rocky ridge, breathing in the thin, cold air of the moon. The relay tower's spark had faded, leaving the valley dark and quiet, except for the distant shouts of the confused raiders. The signal had gone out, Ward was sure of it, but help did not come instantly. They would have to survive long enough for someone to reach this distant moon. Ward sat on a flat stone, checking the last energy level of his weapon. There were only 2 charges left. Not enough for a real fight. Sarilith watched him, her expression tight with worry. "You are injured," she said softly. Ward touched the cut on his arm, noticing the slow bleeding. "It's nothing." "It is not nothing," she said firmly. "You lose strength." Ward gave a small smile. "I've been worse." Sarilith stepped closer. "You protected me again. You should have saved yourself and left the moon by now." He met her gaze. "You know I won't do that." Her eyes softened. "I know." Ward raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because you care so easily," she whispered. "Because you risk everything for someone you have no reason to trust. Because you fight for others without expecting anything." Ward shrugged lightly. "Someone has to." Sarilith stared at him with an expression she had never shown anyone, not her council, not her soldiers, not even her own people. It was a look filled with respect, gratitude, and something deeper she had not yet dared to put into words. A sudden noise broke the moment. A sharp metallic click from the rocks below. Ward reacted instantly. He pulled Sarilith behind a boulder, just before a blaster shot streaked past, burning a black line into the stone. "They found our trail," Ward said sharply. Sarilith looked over the ridge and saw several raiders climbing the slope, moving with determined steps. They were not wandering anymore, they knew exactly where to go. "How long until rescue arrives?" she asked. Ward frowned. "Could be minutes, could be an hour, could be longer." "Then we hold again," she said. Ward nodded. "We hold." They moved along the ridge, searching for better cover. The raiders kept advancing, firing shots every few seconds. Ward returned fire twice, using both charges carefully and forcing the raiders to slow down. But now his weapon was empty. Sarilith noticed the empty indicator. "You have no more shots." "No," Ward said quietly. "You cannot fight without a weapon." "I'll manage," he replied, though he knew the odds were bad. Another blast hit the rock near them, sending debris scattering. Sarilith grabbed Ward's arm and pulled him behind a tall pillar of stone. "Your bravery is useless if you die," she said firmly. Ward smiled, even in the chaos. "You sound worried." "I am," she admitted, surprising even herself with the honesty. But Ward did not have time to respond. A shadow fell across the ground. 2 raiders were climbing onto the ridge from a side route Ward had not seen. Ward pushed Sarilith behind him, stepping forward with nothing but a small emergency knife in his hand. The raiders raised their weapons, confident and cruel. Sarilith felt a jolt of fear not for herself, but for the human who stood between her and the threat without hesitation. The first raider fired, but Ward dodged quickly, rolling across the ground and knocking the weapon aside with the knife. The shot hit the dirt, sending dust into the air. Ward kicked the raider's leg, making him stumble. The second raider came in from the side. Sarilith saw him lifting his weapon toward Ward's back. "No!" she shouted. She grabbed a broken piece of metal from the ground and struck the raider's arm. The weapon fired into the sky instead of into Ward. The raider turned toward her, surprised that a queen would fight with her bare hands. Ward moved fast, tackling the raider before he could attack Sarilith. Both fell to the ground, struggling. Ward used his strength and training to overpower the raider. Forcing him unconscious, the other raider crawled away in fear, retreating down the rocks. Ward stood slowly, breathing heavily. Sarilith stepped toward him, her voice trembling. You could have died." "I'm fine," he said. "You are not fine," she replied. "You protect me more than you protect yourself. And you protect me too," Ward said gently. "We're a team now, remember?" She froze for a moment at the word. "A team," Ward nodded. "Yeah." Before she could respond, the sky lit up with distant lights. A soft hum filled the air, a sound neither raider nor human used. Sarilith's eyes widened. "My fleet. They are here." A massive Zyran cruiser descended through the sky, its silver-blue hull glowing like a falling star. Smaller ships followed it, spreading out across the moon's surface. The raiders looked up in terror. They began running, scattering in every direction. They knew what was coming. No one fought the Zyran Dominion and survived. The large cruiser landed gently near the ridge. The ground vibrated beneath Ward and Sarilith as dozens of armored Zyran guards marched out, their armor glowing with bright energy. They surrounded the area instantly, scanning for threats. Several guards approached the ridge, their weapons raised until they saw who stood there. Sarilith stepped forward. "Stand down," she commanded. The guards immediately lowered their weapons and kneeled. "My queen," the lead guard said. "We feared the worst." Sarilith raised a hand. "I am alive because of the human beside me." The guards looked shocked. Ward simply stood there, injured, dusty, and tired, but still ready to fight if needed. Two medics rushed to Sarilith, but she stopped them. "Help him first," Ward blinked. "Sarilith, I'm okay." "No," she said firmly. "You are not." The medics gently helped Ward sit on a small transport stretcher. Sarilith remained beside him, ignoring her own injuries. The guards exchanged confused looks. They had never seen their queen behave this way toward anyone. As Ward received treatment, Sarilith turned to the lead guard. "You will report this to the council. The human did not kidnap me. He did not harm me. He saved my life again and again." The guard bowed. "As you command." She stepped back toward Ward as the medics bandaged his wounds. "You will come aboard my flagship," she said softly. Ward raised an eyebrow. "Is that an order, Your Majesty?" She leaned closer, her voice gentle. "It is a request." Ward smiled. Then the medics lifted him carefully, and Sarilith walked beside him all the way to the waiting cruiser. Even the guards whispered among themselves at the sight. Inside the ship, the halls glowed with soft blue light. Sarilith stayed near Ward as he was taken to a medical chamber. When the doors opened, she followed without hesitation. The head medic bowed. "My queen, he will recover quickly. His injuries are treatable." "Good," she said. "See that he receives the best care." Ward chuckled weakly. "You don't have to treat me like royalty." "I treat you with respect," she corrected. "You earned it." Hours passed. Ward rested while Sarilith spoke with her council through secure channels. News spread quickly across the Zyran Dominion. Their queen had been saved by a human. Not captured, not humiliated. Saved. When Ward finally woke, Sarilith was sitting beside him, watching quietly. "You stayed," he said. "Of course," she replied. "I told you I protect you too." Ward smiled softly. "What happens now?" Sarilith took a deep breath. "Now, everything changes." He gave her a questioning look. She continued, her voice strong but warm. "My people will no longer see humanity as reckless or weak. They will see what I have seen. You, Ward, have shown a strength no weapon can match." Ward shook his head lightly. "I just did what felt right." "And that," Sarilith said with a gentle smile, is why humanity is stronger than the galaxy understands. Ward sat up slowly as she approached. Cyrillith, you changed the future of two species. Ward, no. We changed it together. She looked at him for a long, thoughtful moment, eyes soft, heart steady. Then she spoke words that would echo through both their worlds. You are the one who saved me, and I will never forget it. And as the ship lifted into the stars, heading home, the bond between a human soldier and an alien queen became something powerful enough to reshape a galaxy, proving once again that humanity, in all its courage and kindness, truly earned its place among the stars.